3, so let's call it to order. And Sue, I'll ask you to call the roll.
Sure. Mr. Mannix,
Here.
Ms. Kelly,
Here.
Ms. Ahmed. Oh, she's on. Rudaba. Oh,
Here.
okay.
Sorry.
Mr. Burke
I'm here.
and Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Garrett's not here,
Mr.
but I
Garrett,
am.
I'm so sorry, Sid, Ms. Garrett. My apologies.
Not a
Mr. Raven
problem.
will not be joining us today. And we do have a quorum.
All right. Very good. Okay. And the first order of business would be the approval of the agenda. And there is a revised agenda that was sent out this morning. I hope everyone has that one.
I so move.
Second. This is Dan.
Very good. We have a move on that and we have a second. All those in favor signify by aye.
I,
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Therefore passed. Okay. And next order of business would be the approval of the November 16, 2020 minutes.
I so move.
I'll
Okay,
second it.
Have a motion. And we have a second on that. Okay. The motion was by Sid Garrett. The second was Heidi, I think.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. And all those in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Carried. All right. Now we have public comment. Okay, I'm not aware that we have anyone there.
There is
wishing to
none,
make
Chairman.
public comment. All right, so we'll move forward. And our next item is our president's report. Dr. Rigetti.
Thank you, Chairman Martin Mannix. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Again, good afternoon to the College Council members and other participants. It's a pleasure to provide you my report here today. We met last in November as we were just nearing the end of the fall semester during what was the final week of in-person classes. And to bookend that, today is the first week of on-campus portion of the spring semester. And certainly while our last meeting was nearly 3 months ago, the work on campus has been nearly nonstop between these two important dates. Again, I would be remiss not to pause for a moment to say to recognize and sincerely thank each member of the SUNY Plattsburgh community, faculty, staff, administrators for their incredibly hard work and care to ensure that we were prepared to start safely. The dedication and commitment to our students made this possible. As I have said through the fall, I'm inspired by and appreciate each of them, and we would not be serving our students today without this collective effort. And I would simply paraphrase this by saying, this is truly cardinal care and spirit in action. So to summarize the spring semester ahead, we began remotely 2 weeks ago. We will have no spring break, and we will end the semester on May the 14th. We adjusted our schedule to support the public health and safety of both the campus and the community, and to be able to provide 13 consecutive weeks of mandatory pooled surveillance testing for COVID-19, which was actually kicking off this morning in our testing center in the Adirondack Dining Hall. We followed a gradual phased-in move-in for our residential students. And all students, whether they were on or off campus, who have a face-to-face class, were required to have a negative COVID test before attending in-person classes beginning today on Monday. Spring commencement is tentatively scheduled for May 15th. SUNY Central has advised campuses that commencement exercises must be considered in accordance with guidance from the New York State Department of Health, and that campuses should look toward planning and I'm essentially message right now a virtual commencement or basically for safety, or doing safely distanced using methods to recognize and provide the degrees. I'll put it this way, I would love some way to do this different than just virtual. So we are in the process of reviewing options accordingly. And certainly we will share our path forward with the graduates and their families very soon. I want to focus the remainder of my remarks today on 3 areas: current campus operations in light of COVID, some of our planning and academic work ahead, and other news and pride points for the campus. So while the COVID cases here for campus operations are declining after the post-holiday spike, we are also very encouraged by the vaccination sites that are ramping up. And put all that together is that we still require a high level of diligence with respect to this pandemic, and our precautions will remain critical. In some ways, we face the opposite of the fall semester when arriving students from I'll say high case or high incidence areas were meeting surrounding communities with lower cases. Today, the positivity rate and the caseload surrounding us here in the North Country, and specifically Clinton County, is far greater than the campus. And over the past 14 days, the campus has recorded 14 total COVID cases. And as I mentioned, pooled surveillance testing is continuing today. It's being conducted with many campus volunteers. I had the pleasure of having a shift this morning to do the job I had was pooler, and I would acknowledge Gary Kroll is on the call. Gary was another pooler at the site, and there are others on this call. Josie was present as well, who are helping to facilitate what we're calling the all hands on deck testing protocols. Our social distancing and face covering policy is still in place. The Cardinal Pledge is a strong foundational piece for safety. We also are continuing our gathering and our event restrictions. And again, the campus community as a whole needs to be able to continue to do the daily health screenings, and the use of personal protective equipment, cleaning supplies, and other steps are helping to keep the campus safe. And again, our classrooms remain altered to support lower density. And we continue, again, to advance all of this by encouraging our students to follow the Cardinal Pledge. As with the fall semester, updated details and information about our restart is always online at the college's COVID-19 page. This may sound like an advertisement, but it's just plattsburgh.edu/COVID-19. I encourage every member of the College Council to visit the dashboard and also visit the SUNY COVID-19 tracker that provides data for all 64 SUNY institutions. And these are updated daily. So it's possible you can peruse and compare how are things going in different parts of the state. With respect to our campus, community standards will be enforced with the student conduct policy and its application off campus. And again, I appreciate so much the ongoing outreach work of the individuals who work within our enrollment and student success area to ensure that we are effectively communicating our expectations for this safe restart. I also want to add this. We are here for our students and our employees at this difficult time. And we encourage each member of our campus community to reach out, to connect, to lend a hand and be a friend. This semester is in a time like no other, and certainly we continue to hear that, and it continues to be true. Our Student Health and Counseling Center, the New York State Employee Assistance Program, and other resources are being deployed and employed to provide support. So planning ahead and some academic work information. Moving ahead, we're making steps towards our next strategic plan. Again, this is a critical step to guide us into the future. Our last campus plan carried us through 2018 and a little bit further, but putting a focus on this work is to really help us hone what we do, how we do it, and it is not just mandated by our Middle States reaccreditation, but by our own push to develop the future for ourselves. Provost Ann Herzog is leading this effort with Dr. Gary Kroll, Chair of the Faculty Senate. And this work will take place with a wide steering committee in a concentrated manner during this current spring 2021 semester. We will plan thoughtfully about what our students seek and need when they enroll in pursuit of their educational goals, and we will make these decisions And certainly as we make these decisions, so the necessary funds are available to support what is essential for the success of our current and future students. And certainly connected to this focus is our financial stability and spending plans. We have made tremendous progress via this financial stability plan over the last 3.5, 4 years. In its absence, we would be facing a far greater challenge. But while the short-term picture is positive, the longer-term trends are not. Our combination of a relatively stable enrollment, one-time federal stimulus resources, and our austere spending over the past year will contribute to a stronger surplus for this year. This is the positive news. But the surplus will not hold as we face rising expenses and flat or declining revenues in the years ahead. So to create a thriving future for our institution, we will carefully examine how we operate, where we invest, and where we spend. And as with the planning, we will do this with care, with a lot of conversation, and we will do it together. The last thing I want to speak to you about is news and pride points. And again, we know the success of the efforts of planning and certainly the budget work that's going on. And I have strong confidence that we're going to succeed. And I think you only need to look at the continual flow of good news to the campus and certainly know how important this work is. First of all, I want to mention that the college is in the middle of our 28 Days of Equity. This is an initiative that runs through Black History Month. The goal is twofold: to build our collective sensitivity of racial equity while moving us from talk to intentional action, and certainly to challenge us to do our own work to address inequity in our daily lives. There are posts of daily activities on social media, and all members of the campus community have opportunities each day to read, to watch, and to listen, and then most importantly, to reflect on the important questions and ideas being presented. This is all part of our work to be all set. S for student-centered, E for equity-minded, and T for trauma-informed. Today's reading is from the Conversation website, and it concerns the impact that Jim Crow policies are having today on communities of color and the trauma this causes. I encourage the College Council to read these daily articles. A few other highlights before I conclude and take any of your questions. SUNY Chancellor Jim Alatras stopped by our campus a week ago as students were moving in and testing. He was very encouraging about the campus process, and his visit generated positive attention to our campus. University Police Investigator Jessica Facto was recognized for her commitment and incredible service to SUNY Plattsburgh students and the campus community by the State University of New York Chiefs Association. We are very proud of Investigator Facto, who has been on campus since 2013. SUNY Plattsburgh nursing students have been on the front lines administering COVID vaccines to healthcare workers, first responders, and community members. Our students responded quickly and have been working through CVPH, where most of our students serve their clinicals. Next, the students who are looking for undergraduate degrees that can launch them towards a career in law, politics, and government can now major in our newest addition to the college curricular programming, Law and Justice. The new program was developed over the course of 2 years by Dr. Ray Carmen and Dr. John McMahon, associate professor and assistant professor respectively in our political science department. This new program allows students to pursue a more focused program of study on these topics within the field of political science. On the topic of athletics, the SUNYAC athletic directors are working on plans for spring intercollegiate athletics. We are hopeful this can take place. Among the disappointments over the fall and the early part of the winter was the cancellation of our fall and winter sports. So this would be a great change if it were to come to pass. Next, we continue to work hard to recruit the next class of Cardinals. The Office of Admissions is offering a variety of virtual events this spring for prospective students, from college fairs to spring open houses, all of which can be accessed without leaving home, as well as a series of instant decision days for students attending the region's community colleges. Next, our school psychology graduate program received full accreditation from the National Association of School Psychologists through February 1st, 2028. Association accreditation provides assurance to graduate students that the quality of the program has been evaluated and it has met national standards established by the profession. Next, work on our Middle States accreditation continues, with the working group findings being condensed into a self-study report at this time. This is all ahead of our planned site visit in 2022. And finally, SUNY Plattsburgh's Shine On program was selected by NASA to host a downlink with the International Space Station during Mission 65 sometime during April and October of this year. This live visit with the astronauts is part of a virtual conference being planned jointly with Beekmantown Central School District to encourage science, engineering, and technology and mathematics careers and to build character strengths in North Country students. I'm very excited about that activity occurring. So in summary, much to celebrate, much to do. It's a pleasure to be with you today. This concludes my report to the College Council, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time. So thank you, Marty.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Dr.? Okay, we'll move to our next item on the agenda, which is Critical Cultural Consciousness Series with council members. And that is going to be delivered by
You're
Dr.
looking at the
Michelle
old
Buck.
agenda, Marty. It's RUDABA, the Student Association report.
Okay, excuse me. Okay. Okay. Rudaba Ahmad. our
Hi.
student- Hi. And
How are
before
you all
you,
doing?
before
Oh,
you
sorry.
begin, I just want to thank you for being here. Your presence is really important for this council. Many times, and today is a good example, your presence makes the difference between whether or not we have, a full complement of members in order to conduct business. And we thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I'll make sure that this semester I'm going to be able to be here and join on this very important call with you all consistently. And I'm very happy to be here. I'm sorry my camera is not working, so I'm not able to see you, but hopefully next meeting I will get that fixed and be able to see you all. But it's always nice to see all of your wonderful faces. Again, thank you for continuing to invite the Student Association and a representative to these meetings and being so student-centered in your approach. And I just want to start off by saying I hope everyone had a restful winter's break. I know most of you all had to still work here, so we really appreciate all the work you did in making sure that the campus is safe and ready for all the students' arrival. And I've heard that this semester has been a much smoother process. And we're here to help aid as much as we can on our end. So first of all, happy Black History Month. And I just wanted to kind of move back and give a few updates from last semester. So we had a few issues with the shuttle from the CAS collaboration working and being consistent last semester, but we've kind of figured out a solution and it's been pretty much en route this semester. Ironically, today it's not working because of the weather, but it is still normally on schedule and everything has been updated, so that's kind of a small update there. Another thing was we did decrease the Student Association fee this semester to $55, which resulted in 5% budget cuts in executive council budgets, who are coordinators and myself. But we're happy to do that just because we don't really have the ability to do a lot of in-person events. And this also allows students to, even if it's a small change, be able to save that amount of money where, financial stability is so much of a problem right now and a concern for a lot of students. So that's why being in the interest of students, we decreased the fee just for the semester. And then another update I wanted to give was I just wanted to thank Faculty Senate specifically on working on a general ed kind of course for financial literacy. This semester, I'm in this course, but it is an upper level economics course. But we're kind of like the test group for students to see how it goes. And then we were told by our professor that it will be converted into a gen ed course next semester. So I really appreciate that. I'm looking forward to that happening. So far, it's been very helpful, and we've learned sort of kind of the basics and kind of gone back to what me as a finance and econ student learned in the beginning of my semesters. So I really appreciated that. And then I wanted to move on to kind of give an update on what we have started to do, which is kind of help you all as much as we can with the weekly pool testing. And we started to kind of create a really simple infographic so we can encourage students to do the pool testing every week and make it as simplified as possible. We've created this infographics and sent it to housing so far just for approval, but we would love to send it to all the other related parties. So we're all on the same page and we're sending all the same information and conveying the same things. But I just wanted to say that we are here to collaborate with you all on this. We have an essay videographer, a photographer, a whole PR team, and so many coordinators who would love to kind of jump on and collaborate with you all and come up with some campaign to remind students to do these pool testings and keep their mask on, even though you know it's a whole other semester and we have vaccines, but just encourage safety. And then the other thing that I wanted to bring up specifically regarding quarantine and safety was having some type of a frequently asked questions FAQ section on the website, or even we could help write that or gather all that information. I know that the quarantine help email has been getting a lot of emails from students, and I wanted to kind of ease that person's burden replying to a lot of the same questions because students maybe aren't reading their emails properly. So we wanted to help as much as we could. So if we could have a conversation after this meeting on how we can help with that, if an FAQ section would help on the website, which we could also promote on our end, I would love to have that conversation. Moving on, I just wanted to share kind of like 3 specific goals that we're looking at achieving the semester and some of the plans that have been ongoing in conversations over the last few semesters, but we've never kind of gotten to actually completely implementing them. So hopefully this semester we will be able to do that, especially because it's the last semester for a lot of the executive council officers, as a lot of us are seniors and we're hoping to graduate in May. So, we not only is it our last semester, but it's our last chance to kind of make an impact. And I know that my team is really excited and motivated to kind of meet those 3 goals that we've been talking about for a while. So the first goal, I'm sure that you've all heard some of these go around in one form or another, but the first one would be pushing for more diversity and inclusion around different offices, whether this be academic departments or different resource offices for students. So the first thing from the Student Association that we want to do for this is build more scholarship opportunities that we can give out from the Student Association fund. Now we don't want to do so much of this because we do have so many other events that and opportunities that we have our Student Association fund go to, but we also want to kind of encourage the college to take on more opportunities for student scholarships, specifically to encourage like diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then we're also working on a Black Lives Matter mural right now, and we hope to have that up during this month of Black History Month. Another thing that we're working on is having our Student Association coordinator for student affairs and diversity and her board. Right now it's Rose, and her board and her people who replace her in the future to meet with Title IX and the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion bi-weekly or monthly, and have that kind of put into a piece of legislation so that is hopefully able to continue, and we're kind of able to have more of a student voice on some inclusion concerns that students had been kind of expressing over the past few semesters and years. So hopefully this is a collaboration we can move forward with, and I hope that Rose will be able to connect with the related parties to find something to put on paper. And then the last initiative that on our end we are planning to do is have this long awaited like discussion that we had on asking professors to play a video to just kind of go over professionalism in the class and inclusion in the class that they can play in the first week of classes. I know that we talked about this for a little bit, but nothing was completely written down and put into paper. So we're hoping to do that this semester. So this kind of hopefully be implemented next semester. And that's kind of what we had from our end. But we would also love to collaborate and encourage the college to take on more diversity and inclusion initiatives that are more than just like pieces of art, which are equally as important, but more so directly helping certain students so that they continue to feel supported. Moving on, our second goal is to simply do more events that we weren't able to do last semester, to just encourage this environment of the lighthearted fun that students at college should be able to have. The concert we weren't able to do because of clearly the pandemic happening. Hopefully we're trying to do some form of that, perhaps something like a drive-in concert. Obviously we want to keep in mind and collaborate with the college on something that is safe for everyone. But I know that our coordinator for activities right now is planning a SUNY-wide concert, something along those lines. But you all will continue to hear about this, and this is the beginning phases. But we're definitely hoping to have more smaller but in-person events, as well as virtual events that are more interactive and students can find more benefit from. Lastly, our last goal would be to make these different resources that are already available on campus more accessible to different students, starting with the health center. I know that the psychologist recently resigned, so we would love to see someone replaced as soon as possible. I don't know if that's already done, and more representation on like the professionals who are employed by the health center currently, and as well as encouraging and making the CDC, the Career Development Center, resources like the Title IX and other offices more accessible and promoted through the Student Association page. And then in going in line with that, this was kind of an idea and project that I started discussing last semester. And we wanted to kind of continue on this project, but I wanted to hear all of your advice on it as well. And it's basically a mentorship program, and I'm aware that this college has had mentorship programs in the past, but after a lot of like discussion and researching, I've heard that it sometimes didn't end up working out because there wasn't enough student interest. So we wanted to create something more student-centered, where clearly the need for mentorship would be met, but people would come both ways, and it wouldn't be just utilizing this great alumni network and leaving them hanging on. So we wanted to move forward with something that's friendly for everyone, like an application, a web application or a mobile application, and we kind of ended up determining that mobile application would be best fitted and most feasible for the different demographics that we're targeting right now. And initially this was a project that was supposed to be a collaboration with the college, but because of this semester and the decreased time and funds, we're not able to work directly with the Plattsburgh Board of Alumni, but we would love to hear what other advice you all have on how we can move this forward. Currently, we're working on it as an independent student-led project that the Coding Hub, which is like a coding student-led organization, and the Student Association, like some senators and executive council members from the Student Association are working on. And we would love to see how we can still partner with the college, even at a time like this, because especially because of this pandemic, people have been able to get that kind of time to stay at home and not only kind of work and deal with the responsibilities that they've always had, but also reflect on what more they can do and where in life, there's just like the missing pieces. And we also did a survey last semester on mentorship and whether bringing back this kind of a mentorship program would be beneficial or something of an interest to students. And we found an overwhelmingly positive response, especially from those who were first generation students or international students, people that I would like to classify as disadvantaged students, low income students, people who don't have an inherited network to build upon and find jobs after college, because that's the reason we're in college and higher education is to meet those like high level goals that we've set for ourselves. And unfortunately, there's just a demographic of people that I would consider at risk who just don't have that network and really need this kind of mentorship program to exist again. But maybe we're not able to find it accessible when it existed before. So I'm really passionate on bringing this back. But I am right now doing it as more of an independent project, but I would love all of your support on this so we can perhaps make it something of a collaboration with the Plattsburgh Alumni Board. It was also a project that I had emailed back and forth with the chancellor, and he was very interested on this, but I wanted to see if we could do it in Plattsburgh first with our small community and see how it works. And depending on that, maybe it could be adopted by SUNY with their budget, with their incredible team, and maybe could become a SUNY-wide program later on. So I would love to hear all of your thoughts on this after this meeting. And I would also love to send over a proposal that we had right now and the product that we're currently working on. And I will just send it over to the email list for this meeting. But that's kind of what I had, those three goals of diversity and inclusion, encouraging that in all aspects, being able to do just like fun events that we weren't able to do last semester and increase that motivation that students kind of lost and dried out, and that just like enjoyment and fervor of college. And lastly, making these different resources that already exist more accessible to all students and more promoted, so that students know that they're there and are able to use them. So that's what we have for you all. But I'm looking forward to continue working with you all this last semester. And again, thank you all for all your hard work so far. That's all I had for today.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Rudaba, thank you for that. Very briefly, is the mentorship program, is the intention to help students acclimate to college, or is it to think about, the next step after college, or is it a combination of the two?
Thank you for the question. It's definitely a combination of the two. So its aim is to just connect students with not only alumni, but other students and professors like yourselves and administration. Just utilize our wonderful SUNY community that we already have, because everyone has different goals. And whether it's about navigating your way through college or even after that, there's a diverse group of people you can definitely connect and network with, but maybe you're not able to because it's just too intimidating and there's not something that completely connects you. It feels more customized. So that's the reason we wanted to create the specific program where it's more or less a low budget focused on our small group, but hopefully it'll be impactful in the way that we've designed it with student opinions and surveys.
Got it. So we'll talk about this another time, but we do have a first year honors society here on campus that's been kind of mothballed over the last 2 years, but it's mothballed because it's striving for a purpose, right? And a mentoring program is certainly one of the things. So let's chat.
Yeah, sure. I would love to. Thank you.
I would like to have an opportunity to participate in some discussions on that also, because I may be able to provide some advice on some local people who could be interested in such a program.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I will definitely include you in the email chain. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. And thank you again. Next up is Dr. Sandra Rizek with her comments as presiding officer of the faculty.
Hi, everyone. I'm guessing I was moved up because I do have to go to a meeting at 2 o'clock. So that's why you're hearing from me earlier than normal in the meeting. I'll just make a few comments. We are now in our second planned semester of the various modalities. So I know going into the fall semester, faculty had lots and lots of discussions among ourselves about, how were we going to do this? How are we going to shift to these different modalities? We'd had some experience with that in the spring, but that wasn't planned. And so, fall was in many ways a semester of trying to figure out what would work, what wouldn't, and now trying to incorporate that into this semester. And personally, I feel like it's going a little smoother. I, have kind of figured out what works and what doesn't. So I think that helps. I think going into the semester, I'm feeling a little more confident about teaching over Zoom, how to have students turning things in on the web, all of those sorts of things. So I think in that sense, it's going smoother than last semester. Certainly there are some disciplines where the different formatting, even social distancing in the classroom, are still very, very challenging. Performances, science labs, those sorts of things are, there's no good way or great way to really deal with that. So I know those departments certainly are still facing a lot of challenges. I think as we're getting more used to this, though, things are still changing. So I think one of the biggest challenges, like myself as a department chair, that I'm dealing with is now trying to plan for fall, because we're already, fall schedules are due soon. And so as a department, we're still, talking through, well, we have to plan for social distancing for the fall. What are we going to do? Are we going to put in face-to-face courses, hoping that things improve? So that's the biggest challenge, I think, for me as a department chair right now, is already trying to plan for the next semester, not knowing exactly what's going to happen, because it's a far in the distance. While at the same time, most of us are hoping to return to normal as soon as we can. So I think that's, as we're working it out, I'm sure some of us are going to still want to continue doing some of the things that we've done with incorporating more online work, maybe doing more hybrid, even when things can get back to normal, but still it's just this ongoing challenge of trying to figure out what we do next, how we make this work next. And that's really all I have to say today.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Okay, next up on our agenda is the Critical Cultural Consciousness series with council members, Dr. Michelle Cromwell. Okay, and oh, by the way, I want to make an announcement for Heidi Kelly. Kelly, you'll be delighted to know that the snow started here in Plattsburgh about a half an hour ago.
That's good. I didn't want you to feel left out.
That's right. Okay, Michelle, you're on.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me to share about this important initiative. If you bear with me a second, I'd like to share my screen just so that you have something to see beside my bland face. If you can give me a thumbs up that you can see this. Okay, perfect. Let me just do the full screen. So I wanted to share about the idea of critical cultural consciousness, which is an education initiative that we started last August. But if I can go back a bit, if you recall, whenever I talk about my work, I talk about the work really revolving around three imperatives. The first being educational, and that it really is about doing something or doing this work in a way that it enhances the campus climate, but that it also provides the skill and knowledge development. And this critical cultural consciousness falls into that imperative. And it really helps us as a campus to move in the same direction. Now, when we look at some of the best practices for the diversity, equity, and inclusion work, it says that you have to do education, but it specifically says that education needs to start at your executive level. So very often we start training, people, students or faculty or staff, but the best practice says that we need to start at the executive level. So to that end, the cabinet and deans started doing this critical cultural consciousness, which really is education that helps us to critically think about the experiences of people outside our own cultural understandings, the things that we see as culturally normal, and really doing some work to understand what their everyday experiences are. And Dr. Inyeti talked about us getting student-centered and equity-minded. And this is what the Critical Cultural Consciousness series does. So as I was saying, the cabinet and the deans started doing this work back in August. And we have moved through August and we're continuing to do the work this semester. So one of the things I wanted to do was to introduce this to other parts of our executive team, primarily the College Council. So critical cultural consciousness really looks at beginning with 4 content areas, identifying what are some of the things that we have been taught, and what are some of the ways, the things that we have been taught by our key agents of socialization, the schools we went to, our parents, the institutions we were a part of, and how have those things really embedded and taught us to be agents of oppression. And for many people will say, oh, I'm not oppressive. But I think when we really take a deep look at the way that we have been socialized, even myself, we see that there are ways that we are agents of oppression. And what this Critical Cultural Consciousness series does is it really helps us to unpack and to become more sensitive, not just aware, to have a deeper sensitivity to some of the things, some of the ways that we carry out these practices. So I wanted to bring this to your attention today because I know we talked about it at the last meeting, but just to say this is what it is. There are these 4 core content areas that we will start working on, and it's not a training. I want you to think about it more as an educational opportunity, very interactive. We talk about high impact practices. So there's a lot of dialogue, a lot of discussion, really to help turn that key, as I said, to get us more sensitive. And I wanted to make sure that I also shared some outcomes. So I will put in the chat the URL for this infographic so that you can go back and look at it on your own time. But I wanted to stop here because this, I think in a nutshell, is what that critical cultural consciousness is. So the next thing I will be doing with the College Council members is asking you to look at your calendars and to see if every month, which is what the cabinet and deans have been doing, we meet the first Friday of every month for almost 2 hours to do some of this work. So the next step is that I will be reaching out to you probably with the help of Ken and Sue to figure out how we can get something put on the calendar for us to start this process. So I want to stop now and invite you for comments, questions, suggestions? Silence?
Well, I mean, I, for one, I'm really looking forward to being able to participate in this, and I think it'll be very helpful, you know, in many areas of my life. So I'm really, I'm excited that we're going to get started on this.
Yeah, I concur.
Thank you.
So Michelle, you're looking towards getting this started next month, or?
I think what we can do is look at everyone's calendars. Ideally, it would have been nice to get this started in March, but we're already at almost the end of February. It almost feels as though we have to start doing our 2021 Christmas shopping already. But so yes, ideally, it would be nice to start in March. So offline, I would reach out to Marty through maybe Anne, Ken, or Alex. So someone will help me facilitate that and figure out what would be the best way for us to see, you know, what the mutual chimes are.
And you're looking at an online training type, or not training, you know, online.
Experience, definitely, yes. And what I want to say is we started off meeting in person, but we have also met online. And I feel that because of the way that we've done the work, that, and, you know, maybe people that are on the call can attest to this, I have not seen a big shift in some of the learning outcomes. It feels the same way. The discussions are just as rich online. So, and, you know, we want to make sure that we stay protected.
Okay. Well, I encourage you, send it out to us and we'll pick some dates.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, next up on our agenda is Dr. Cromwell, your divisional report is next up. Are you making a divisional report today?
I am just sort of sharing with you what I've been up to and what will be happening for this semester. So thank you again. So coming back again to, and I think this is the drum that I will continue to beat. There are three main imperatives: education, business, and economic. And education is around you know, educating and making sure that we have the skills and knowledge to have a campus climate that's inclusive, and business around looking at the business case for diversity and making sure that we recruit and we retain. And Rudaba was speaking about this earlier on. So recruiting and retaining faculty and staff that can help us to build the campus climate that we want. And the third imperative is around economic, which is that there has to be resources to carry this out. So I just wanted to share a few things related to those three imperatives and around the work that I'm doing this semester. So when last we spoke, I believe it was maybe sometime last year, I spoke about the climate surveys that we conducted in spring 2020. So this semester, we will be disseminating the results. And of course, the data from our campus climate survey helps us to understand what are some of the issues in the climate, but also helps us to move and to actually do initiatives to address that. So in March, myself and the director of the institutional effectiveness, the Office of Institutional Effectiveness, we will be sharing the data from our three climate surveys. We did one for students, one for staff, and one for faculty. Also this semester, we are completing the work of the diversity, equity, and inclusion the strategic planning. And instead of calling it a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan, we've called it an inclusive excellence strategic plan, because inclusive excellence is really placing diversity and inclusion as central to all our operations. And when we do that, then we're excellent. So we really want to get into this idea of inclusive excellence. So in June 2021, we had the President's Inclusive Excellence Council was formed, that is our diversity task force. And they are working very closely with me. And there are 21 group cross-functional, multi-level staff faculty that are highly motivated. So they're working this semester to get our strategic goals moved into strategic objectives, and then having some strategic initiatives, which we will share out with the community as this process goes on. So very excited about getting our inclusive excellence strategic plan completed, hopefully by the end of April. The other thing, Alex spoke about it, we have, 21 days of equity. But one of the other things that I'm very excited about, which is related to the business imperative, is really related to our recruitment and retention, but specifically for recruitment. It's very easy to say that we want to hire Black, Indigenous, and other people of color or other marginalized identities. But sometimes there might be issues on the search committee, sometimes very innocently, that might block some of those people moving past that search process and being recruited and hired. So this semester we have started, we have initiated an initiative called the Equity Advocate Initiative. And that simply is placing a person on each search committee that is an equity advocate. And we like to say that the equity advocate will be the eyes, ears, and heart for equity on all of these search committees. And we're still in the process of rolling that out, but hopefully that would be in process by early April. So when we have at the next College Council meeting, hopefully I'll be able to share some more with you about the Equity Advocate program. So that's what I have today, and that's what we have cooking from my division. And I'll welcome your questions, your comments, and your suggestions.
Any questions for Dr. Cromwell?
Yeah, I think I've asked this question before, but how easy is it to recruit people from some of those marginalized groups and different ethnic backgrounds and things like that in a place like Plattsburgh? And how do you structure your search to attract people from those different groups?
I love that question. And it also is related to us sort of like shifting our consciousness, right? And also shifting our practices. So I think to do that, we have to not do business as usual. So we have to start looking at different, I like to say we have to shake different trees. We have to look in different ponds. So whereas before we might post our jobs in certain, magazines and certain listservs, we now have to do it differently. So one of the things that we have been looking at is using IPEDS data. And IPEDS really is an exhaustive amount of data that tells you where these candidates are. And also shifting the idea that people will not come here because we don't pay a lot of money. Because people don't just come to places for money, they come for culture and they come for climate. And if we can fix, and this is why I'm working on fixing our climate. So if we can have a climate and culture where people would feel welcome and feel seen and that they matter, they would want to come here and stay here. So to answer the question, we need to look for our candidates in different places. And we have to do that, the looking differently. So for example, using social media, using our LinkedIn is a free source for where tons of good candidates are. So starting to use some out of the box methods to reach out to people, and most of those are free.
And then, Michelle, then do you begin to work with the greater Plattsburgh community to, begin to create, a welcoming community, experience for people from some of these different, groups that you would want to encourage to come?
I would say definitely. And I would say from my own experience, and Anne Hansen can attest to this, one of the reasons that I have felt so at home and welcomed in Plattsburgh is because the external community has truly welcomed me. So I don't have family or friends here. And this weekend, just, again, to use myself purposefully, I was very ill from Thursday to, and still sort of like a bit shaky. I had community members dropping food at my door. They just heard that I was ill and they wanted me to know that they cared. Went to the co-op, picked up soup, picked up orange juice, and dropped it at the door. And that is the community that we have in Plattsburgh. And I think that's the community that we need people that we're hiring into the college to understand that they're coming into. So doing some more of that intentionally to let people know that this exists, I think is also important. So thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Marty, you're on mute.
Marty, you're muted.
Okay. Am I unmuted now? Thank you again, Doctor. All right. Josie Lasher.
First name is fine,
Okay.
not Marty.
Okay.
We only have one Josie on this screen here, so I'm good. I'm good. There's definitely more Josies in the North Country than there is in Southern California, though, I have to
All
say.
right. That's right. But you're also a good example of, you came here for the weather, we know.
I did. Of course I did. I came here for
Yeah.
and look, it's a winter wonderland today.
Right.
Yeah. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time today. And I'll probably be leaving the meeting right after my report so I can get back to pool testing. As I found somebody who was kind enough to take over a shift that I'm taking over for somebody else. And so you'll see me depart right after my my little presentation on the division. So not a lot has been happening, right? We've all had a very quiet past 10 months. Finances rolling in, the bank is flush with money. We have students, all over the place. I'm being somewhat facetious. This has been, I did it the opposite of saying this has been an unprecedented year, because we're all kind of tired of hearing about that, because at some point, if it's an unprecedented year, we're going to start something new. But right now we're still kind of in this place where it's all about testing, it's all about vaccines, it's all about safety, and it's all about really our people and keeping our students, faculty and staff safe. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of finances and where we're at, and then give you a little update on some capital projects. But before that, I have a little bit of sad news. Now, I know that it just went out from Jerry Ann to the campus community, but we lost a longtime alum and an employee of the college. And some of you may have worked or interacted with Al Mahalik. So Al Mahalik has passed away just recently. And so for those, many of our college council people, I saw the looks on your face. I mean, clearly he was a member of our community and truly beloved. He for those who don't know who Al Mahalik is he graduated with an English degree from SUNY Plattsburgh in the mid-70s and never left Plattsburgh or our campus, and was a vibrant professional working primarily in the College of Arts and Sciences. And from the mid-'80s, Al was the assistant to the dean, working on all things, anything related to money or administrative processes, and figuring out how to get things done within the college environment. I had the pleasure of working with Al for a little bit of time before he retired. And boy, what big shoes Jamie Winters had to step in to help support that division. Al really had done so much for not only that college, that School of Arts and Sciences, but really with college service with UUP as president, as well as vice president for the professionals. So our hearts go out to Al and his family and community. So I just wanted to make sure that I acknowledge that. And Kim, thank you very much for alerting me to this earlier today so that I could be prepared. So thank you very much for that. So just going to pause for just a second there for us all to take in what I just said before I get into finances. Okay, so from a financial perspective, I'm going to give a little bit of an update from a couple of things. One is the federal stimulus funding that was passed in December. So the one that was already passed in December, the quick and hurry up, let's get it done, let's do something. The SUNY Board of Trustees budget that was passed in December, and then the governor's executive budget that he submitted in mid-January. And then maybe a little bit more on that. But so the Federal Stimulus Act that was passed in December provides some significant funding, $23 billion for higher education. And this is over and above what was provided in the CARES Act in April. So $23 billion for higher education. It's broken down into two parts like it was for the CARES Act. A part of it is for the institutions, and then another part is for direct student stimulus grants. So SUNY Plattsburgh is going to be receiving a total of $8.7 million from that $23 billion. So that is really great news. Of that 8.7, 2.6 million will be distributed directly in the hands of our students as stimulus funds, exactly the same amount that we provided back in spring to our students. And so that does leave 5.7 million coming to the college to help support us with our institutional costs as related to COVID-19, as well as costs to change modality of instruction or lost revenue and a variety of other elements. At this time, we are still waiting for guidance. Yes, that was approved in December. We are still waiting for guidance. Okay, so we haven't received any of that 8.6. We are still waiting for guidance from the federal government, but more importantly, really from SUNY and the state of New York on accessing those funds, the distribution of those funds to our students, and then the use of those funds for SUNY campuses. So I know it's almost, it is the middle of February. This was approved in December. We have not seen any. We haven't distributed the money to our students yet, and we're not authorized to do so as of yet. I will just let everybody know that our $2.6 million that we received in April, in the spring for our students, we were one of the first, actually, we were the first SUNY campus that had distributed all of the funds to our students. So we're primed, we're ready to distribute the money, to get it into hands of our students as soon as we're allowed to do so. And then what happened in December, really at December 31st, was also the SUNY Board of Trustees approved their budget and they sent that on to the governor. It's kind of a moot point because the SUNY budget doesn't really necessarily mean a whole lot anymore because the governor's budget is now is in hearings and the legislators are reviewing that. But the SUNY budget recognized that the state of New York was in a financial crisis and really had the biggest component for SUNY Plattsburgh. SUNY was asking the governor and the state of New York to hold state funding flat for our state operated campuses. So they were at least asking for no cut. Then in January, the governor distributed his and submitted his executive budget proposal. And so just a couple of key highlights on that. The New York State financial deficit has improved a little bit from 16 billion to 15 billion. I'll take $1 billion any day. The reduction, though, the state budget and the state finances still has a significant gap to remediate. The governor basically submitted a proposal to the legislators that indicated a 5% reduction in state funding across the board for all state agencies. And that would include SUNY and SUNY Plattsburgh. That's also contingent, though, upon New York State receiving $6 billion of federal aid. And that state federal aid is part of that $1.9 trillion stimulus package that's currently being legislated and being reviewed. So just to kind of summarize, so long as the state of New York receives at least $6 billion of federal stimulus funding, state agencies should expect a 5% reduction in state funding for next year based off of the governor's proposed budget. So SUNY was pretty happy with that in that our worst case scenario was anywhere between 20 and 30% state budget reduction. So we're watching and seeing how these go, how the bill both in the New York State legislative process goes, as well as with the federal stimulus funding. So we're evaluating all of this, trying to find the best path forward for SUNY Plattsburgh as we look to develop our budget for next year. And we're working through those issues. And then I just wanted to give a little bit of an update on capital. So yes, there's COVID and yes, there's restrictions on working and there's new guidelines on construction, but construction is still occurring on our campus. We are proceeding with the Memorial Hall major renovation that I've spoke to you all about before. So that is proceeding very well. The pool has been completely demolished. It no longer exists. They're starting to renovate the restrooms on the main floor. And so there is progress that's occurring there. We also have a couple of upcoming projects that actually have been approved by the Department of Budget. And hopefully we'll be seeing some more activity this summer in regards to those. Unfortunately, we had a problem with our roof on our Kehoe administrative building. This happened in November when we had some pretty big winds and a little bit of rain, but the winds were really problematic and they caused some issues with our membrane that's right on top of the roof of Kehoe. And so we need a new roof. So that project is proceeding as a critical project to ensure that we don't have leaky roof on this building. So we're looking to do that this summer. We also have a project to completely resurface the Kehoe parking lot. So for those of you who drive to campus every now and then, the potholes in the Kehoe parking lot have been a problem for years and years. It also has major issues with our drainage and drainage pipes that are spread throughout the parking lot. And so we're looking at doing a complete resurfacing of the parking lot. And then we also have some pretty significant masonry issues on just about all of our older buildings, the Kehoe Building, Yoakum, Angel College Center, and Myers and Feinberg as one big cluster. So these masonry issues, well, clearly you all are more in tune with the North Country weather that we have, but basically there's potential leakage in all of those buildings in different spots. And so that's a really big project. It's very invasive to redo the masonry for all of these buildings. And so it's very expensive, but we're advocating significantly to get going on the project. These buildings are critical to our services of our campus. And so we need to make sure that they stay around for 30 more years at least. So with that, I will ask if there are any questions.
Josie, this is Dan. The money that we got or we were awarded back in December, was there a formula? I mean, in your opinion, did we get our fair share or?
Yes, there's a formula. It's a pretty extensive formula, but it's primarily based off of Pell eligible students and enrollments throughout the country. And so it's a pretty formulaic driven calculation that's there. And yes, okay. We did. We actually even qualified for a small amount of additional funding due to our Pell eligible student population.
Great, thank you.
Welcome, great question. Anyone else? Then I'm gonna say goodbye and thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Okay, Josie, thank you. All right, next up is Ann Hansen with her report from Institutional Advancement.
Thank you, Marty. Good afternoon, everyone. And I'm trying to kind of regain my equilibrium a little bit here after hearing the news about Al Mihalik. And I would just, I just have to reinforce what a joy it was to work with him for so many years. He was, without a doubt, the glue that held the School of Arts and Sciences together for many decades. And in fact, I just his ability to problem solve and figure out how we worked very closely with him on the foundation side when it came to figuring out how to solve funding problems. And he was just very pragmatic and inventive and had a great sense of humor. Probably the driest wit of anybody I ever knew. In fact, the first labor management meeting I ever sat in with him, he said a few things that were, I thought, a little bit beyond the pale, but really just made me laugh out loud, and a real fabulous person. So he will be missed by many, I'm sure. Okay, so I'm going to touch on a couple things from advancement in regards to development news, and then I'm going to shift into some alumni relations news. In regards to development, I just want to give a quick update on a couple affinity campaigns. Since we met with the council last, we did finish our diversity, equity, and inclusion campaign. So the One Plattsburgh campaign ended December 31. It was a fabulous success. Thanks to all the efforts of the team. It was all hands on deck, and the response from the faculty, staff, and alumni was remarkable. We started out with a $50,000 matching gift, and we raised over $400,000 in gifts and pledges to support diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives. So I think a good thing to note as well is that at this point we have over $1 million in endowed funds that are specifically dedicated to diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives. So it's I think, a point of pride for Plattsburgh. Within this campaign, about half of what we raised came in right away in cash. And then about the other half, about 220,000 came in as one large planned gift, which supports the Wilson and Scott scholarships. And we also have just over 30,000 in pledges that will be fulfilled in the next 5 years or so. The top performers, for those of you who've been watching the diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts that the foundation's been making for the past many years, the Douglas Scott Scholarship for Social Justice, recognizing student leaders, was by far top performer with 164,000 designated directly to that endowment. The James Augustus Wilson Scholarship that supports Black student leaders, 147,000 was dedicated to that endowment. And then the other 3 funds that did very well, the Heidi Klute Endowment to support women students, Upward Bound Scholarship to support low-income first-generation students from our region, DEI programming supporting Dr. Cromwell's important work, and a new endowment in memory of Becky Casper that supports women and, if possible, single mothers who are returning to school. So it was quite an exciting effort, and just one of many that I am sure will do for this purpose. Another affinity campaign that's wrapping up today is our Game On for Giving. This is the 5th anniversary for our Game On for Giving program. It's a fundraising campaign for athletics, and it's very focused on building donor numbers. So it's a participation, getting people on board as donors. We have a $5,000 challenge offered by Richard Sembler, class of '68, who was a Hall of Fame track and field athlete who just barely missed going to the Olympics the year after his graduation. He's got quite some stories to tell. The campaign focuses on basically having the different athletic teams compete against one another for those challenge dollars. So the athletic team that raises the most in funding gets an additional $2,000 for their team. The team that has the highest increase in the percent of participation, so increases from one year to the next, they receive a $2,000 prize. And the team that has the highest overall alumni donor count, the highest overall donor count gets $1,000. So at this point, we have over 1,500 people that have participated in the effort. It's only a 2-week effort, so it's really quite a fun collaboration between Advancement and the athletic coaches, all reaching out to their alumni. We have 700 alumni that have given to the campaign as of this morning. And that's pretty exciting because that's it's close to 70 more than we had last year. So when we see alumni counts going up like that, and we see first-time donors come on board, that's what it's all about. These campaigns are getting new people engaged. That's what we're shooting for. Women's soccer's leading the way in total donor numbers. But men's baseball is fast catching up, and a lot can happen in the last day. Just let me tell you that everything could change in the last day of this campaign. It ends today. Men's hockey and women's basketball are also neck and neck. And so it'll be exciting to see where we end up at midnight. And it'll probably take a couple days to get all the gifts processed, because I think last year we had 300 gifts come in on the last day. The campaigns that we're running for the spring semester include one that we're calling, it's going to be focused on the comfort and care for students. It will be part of our faculty staff Count Me In campaign, and it will focus on providing support to students that are in isolation or quarantine, and also increasing resources for the campus food pantry. So it's very much focused on feeding and caring for students that need help. We're also going to do a small campaign for Tim Hartnett, a librarian who passed away last fall. That will be a scholarship. We're doing a fundraising effort for student support services. That will be a scholarship. And we'll close the year with Rise Up Red, which is our Plattsburgh Fund effort that really is focused on institutional gift aid. So that supports the work that Lizzie Wahab and her team are doing to enroll students and bring them here. Paula Bachman and Aubrey Brissett have been key players in building all of these affinity campaigns out. In the area of alumni relations, we have two new initiatives that are exciting new collaborations between the alumni relations team and the admissions team. One is the Launch a Cardinal effort, and this is for alumni to refer students as possible applicants and to kind of make it a little more interesting. The Alumni Association and the foundation are covering the cost of the application fee. So anyone who refers a student through Launch a Cardinal, the student can apply for free. The second thing that just got off the ground last week or the week before is a letter writing campaign where alumni board members and other key volunteers in the Alumni Association are going to be sending out 2,000 handwritten cards to students who have been accepted. And these are students we want to enroll this fall. So we're going to get 2,000 cards out, personal, maybe a business card in there as well. Please call me, please email me. I want to talk to you about Plattsburgh, very personal approach. Get those out in the mail by March 19th to help boost yield. So Carrie Woodward in admissions and Carrie Chapin Levine partnered to build that out. And Lizzie was a real driver in that. So that's those are the few quick things I wanted to share with you today, and I'm happy if there's any questions or comments.
Okay, and this is Dan. I have to ask the question. How big has the endowment gotten to be? The market's been good.
Market's been really good. We just cleared, Dan, you would put me on the spot like this. I think we have cleared, we're approaching 30 all up. So that's endowment, that's all other assets of the foundation. So total value is approaching 30 million for foundation assets. And for the endowment proper, I will get you that number. I'm not going to misspeak.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty impressive number. Congratulations.
No, it's definitely an all-time high.
Yeah.
Just hope the market can hold together.
Thank you, Ann.
You're welcome.
Okay. And next report is Lizzie Wahab, enrollment and student success.
Thank you so much, Marty. Good afternoon, everybody. That's a hard act to follow, Ann Hansen, with a 30 million going north. But I feel like in many times I have the best job of anybody, because my job is to get people excited about coming here. And I've got an incredible team of people who work on that process. So if you would yield me some time, I have a short slide presentation to share. And last November, when I met with all of you, I shared a slide presentation that had all of ESS. This time I thought, let's move with enrollment first to show you what we're doing and what we've done and how we're moving forward. And in our next meeting, we're going to update on student success and student affairs. So if I can share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So I wanted to begin with bringing you back on how beautiful our campus really is, right? It's a gorgeous location, positioning and higher education institute at a location such as Plattsburgh is really a joy in many, many ways, because people, when they get to see the Adirondacks, when they get to see the lakes and where we are, there's that sense of a deep breath and freedom. something that Maine really capitalizes on. When I was at the University of Maine, location was a big part of our themes in terms of advertising. And what I learned from that is when we advertise an institution in a state, to give them that that feeling of being able to be outdoors and being able to really breathe deep is a wonderful feeling. And so throughout my work with admissions and student success, and with the help of marketing from Anne's department, we've been really gearing to take a look at how we position our institution in everything we do. And a part of it is that care quotient that Plattsburgh has for its students that's going to be so beautifully delivered with 2,000 plus alumni letters. And at a time when everything is Zoom, when everything is a little bit more nuanced to safety, it's wonderful to get a handwritten letter. And that's something, I really missed this Christmas. I didn't get as many handwritten Christmas cards as I normally do. And I thought, oh my, I feel that. So we at Admissions, we are looking to engage our students, really giving the feel of North Country. We feel we have a valuable place here. And I just wanted to share this picture with you so that you can remember how beautiful this campus really is. So last year in 2020, when I joined, as I said, I inherited an incredible group who had already worked very hard in not only meeting the goal of numbers of students, but actually going past it. So keeping that energy up during this time of pandemic was very important for all of us. And we were really trying to make sure we position ourselves for some growth, even in the spring enrollment counts. And usually spring is a lot lower than fall, and so we wanted to make sure that we did put a lot of attention in. And so far, as of today, the actual registering students are 350. So I'm really excited because this number can only go up. So we will have had 25 to 30 5 extra students that we were not counting on for the spring, which is a great news, and especially for the admissions team to see their efforts play out in students enrolling is a wonderful way to move forward. So, I get a lot of questions from my colleagues. Who are the students that are coming to Plattsburgh? What are our Plattsburgh students like? This is a quick divvy up on where our students by region come from. And this is an important divvy up because we're always looking towards positioning us in a manner that more students will come up north, more students will take advantage of our location. You can see the areas where we need to improve. Definitely New York is pretty saturated. We already command 40% of North Country's student population. We'd like to get it to 50%, but where our real opportunities are also in the out-of-state areas adjacent to New York, where they can come in and not only increase our diversity, but bring in those out-of-state dollars that are so important. So as we move forward, we're not only going to boost up North Country, but we're also going to look at strategic footprints in areas of athletics and areas in areas that we think out-of-state students can really increase the appeal of going to school here at Plattsburgh. So this is a quick pie chart for you to take a look, and that's what our student demographics look like right now. So as I said, Plattsburgh already commands 40% of our students. So, with the SUNYs, it's a little bit tough because we are kind of recruiting each other's students. Where I feel that we can really do well, since we already own that 40% of our North Country students, is to really get that dominance in there and be that North Country institution by having at least 50 or more percent of the share of students coming in. We're very in tune in admissions to look at what strategic priorities can we grow during the pandemic. Again, that means the community connections become very important. And thank you so much for Ann Hansen's team to get us that community connection right up front. So not after we look at all the students that have applied, but before they're even thinking of applying, having that community reach out to the students and tell them and reinforce what a great place this is, especially at times of such disconnect and discordance, I would say, due to the pandemic. The overall report with SUNY Comprehensives, we're seeing an application decline for the whole SUNY system. And that's because so many students have decided to kind of sort of stay within their region or within their state. So what we are doing at Plattsburgh to counteract that decline is not only looking at increase in application, we have to look at that to get more students in, but look at where we are from the time a student is accepted to the time a student decides which institution they're going to be in, and see if we can really revamp the efforts in terms of what we call in enrollment management yield. So we've got X% of students who applied. How can we really let them know about the benefits of attending a SUNY Plattsburgh, and how can we help them look towards our direction? From the get-go, I came to Plattsburgh because it is as beautiful as it is, and I felt that I could really add in helping shape North Country. And when I look at diversity of students, I also look at rural North Country students. What are we doing as almost a flagship of the North Country with our rural students? And really, again, revamping the rural application, reaching out to the rural student, making those connections more solid, continuous, so our rural populations get a chance to come and study in what is their flagship institution here in the North Country. So our goal numerically for next fall is 1614. But that to me is just a number. My whole outlook with our team is to go above that, because we're going to do such a good job in connecting students and showing off what we have and how they can benefit that. Our entire team's hope is that we go above those numbers, but we've got a lot of work to do, not only to meet and go above those numbers, but to make sure that our continuing students are not declining at a high rate. And as you know, that if continuing students don't come back, then we've got to recruit more. And it costs a lot more to recruit new students than to give a revamped experience to the continuing students so they continue staying and graduating from Plattsburgh. We're again, some of the bad news is in application wise, we're seeing a 17.6% decline. And the decline is specific in students that are underserved. And as you know, the pandemic has really caused havoc with people in terms of their jobs. So we are looking to see what else can we do beyond what we normally do. What else can we do with these students that are underserved? And how can we make cost a plus point for us so that more students look at SUNY Plattsburgh? So to really look at students from all contexts and holistically, we started what we call a holistic review. You may have heard that many state institutions and schools have looked at SATs as optional this year, moving forward for at least the next 3 years. And we here at SUNY, with the support of Faculty Senate and our leadership, were able to pass something called the holistic review for an application that's coming in. So no more just looking at SATs and GPA, but looking at the whole file in terms of, would this student be a student that would really do well at Plattsburgh? Is the fit something that we can really encourage in terms of not only predicting their success in college academically, but what they can get out of the college experience so they can position themselves for that first really good job. It's the upward mobility indicator. So we're using a lot of tools to make sure when we look at the students, we look at them holistically, and it's not just based on our innate bias, but it really has, we have some tools that we can use so we are being as fair and thorough and thoughtful as possible with each application. Again, a quick look for where we are in terms of the diversity in New York, the diversity in Clinton County, and where SUNY Plattsburgh is. And this is an important indicator for you to see how already SUNY Plattsburgh is doing such a great job attracting people up north of a diverse background. We are, of course, working to do better, but the starting point is pretty good. So I'm really always encouraged by these numbers because it gives me that sense of momentum on something that Plattsburgh has that we can build on. We talked a little bit about all the various ways we're collaborating. And these are great numbers, but what's exciting is admissions is really working together with faculty. And Ann Herzog, our provost, really blessed that in a sense where faculty are getting to be in those conversations where they can say, I'd like to really portray my department this way, or I'd like to be able to write to the students from the get-go. So we're getting faculty totally involved in the process of recruitment and front-loading that faculty appearance throughout the process so our students can really get to know their faculty, get to know what we have to offer. And then we're working very closely with Ann Hansen's group, making sure that for people who can't afford the fee waivers for whatever reason, we have a way for them to get a waiver. And it's really exciting to have alums back us up this way. And that's their support in making sure the student succeeds in the process of application. A lot of virtual aid, virtual appointments, one-on-one appointments are going on with financial aid, with EOP students. We've seen a decline in EOP student applications in the last year. So we're trying to reach out with the New York Department of Education one-on-one to see what we can do from the system to help out in this process. Another aerial for you to quickly take a look at how beautiful this place really is and to help us position our institution to come here and take advantage of the outdoors. And again, marketing is really also helping us steer the way we request application through market research, looking at tools like Burning Glass and other tools that help us define demographies that then we can go and advertise in, and we can do our one-to-one partnerships with. Again, a big thank you to Alex and to Ann Hansen's group for helping us look at a tool. It's a nationwide research company, EAB, who assists institutions to do a little bit of deep diving in terms of yield strategies, like the students that are applying to you, what percentage of those students are really likely to come to Plattsburgh, and really then segment the market such that for those who are interested initially, we can build up that interest and we can really help them achieve admissions to Plattsburgh. So that in a nutshell is what admissions is working on. But as you know, my other division is student success. So a lot of work is going on in terms of continuing students excited and continuing to register and making sure they have the financial support and the support of being a student here, the collegial support to succeed to becoming a graduate. And I will bring more on that in the next time we meet. So thank you very much for listening, and sorry if I bored you a little bit, but I'm open for any questions.
No, that was good. A lot of good numbers there.
Yes. Very interesting data.
Well, thank you.
Marty, we skipped over Dr. Herzog.
Ah, excuse me. Ann, please accept my apologies.
No apology necessary. Thank you.
Well, you're up, okay?
Okay, thank you. And I would just comment, I don't think any of us were bored, Lizzie, and I think you can see, listening to Vice President Wahab, her enthusiasm for the institution and all the skill set she brings to us is really promising in terms of our during this challenging time. So I just wanted to comment on that. We heard President Inyeti share a number of accomplishments from academic affairs already. I just want to touch briefly on two that were mentioned. One, that I will be co-chairing the strategic planning with Dr. Kroll, and I'm excited to work with him. For me, as somebody who came to the institution in the middle of COVID, I see it as a really important opportunity to collaborate and get to know the representatives who will be on the steering committee. So I'm really excited about that work, not only for what we will produce in terms of new directions for Plattsburgh Next, but also just to establish those relationships. You always get to know people better when you work on a project together. So I'm happy for that. And I also wanted to affirm, I know she's gone, but Dr. Rizak's comment about faculty, and this has been an extraordinarily challenging time for faculty from last spring, right through now. Nobody who went on our faculty who earned a PhD and dreamed of teaching students thought that they would be living the life that they're living, but they've adjusted very well, making all kinds of flexible efforts to serve our students well. So I'm just really proud of the faculty that we have here and the work that they are engaged in to meet student needs. So I'm going to jump down, talk about a few things in the School of Business and Economics. You may have seen in a recent Press Republican article that this is the 50th anniversary of business administration at SUNY Plattsburgh. That's kind of an exciting marker. Very successful business programs here and school. Dr. Ortiz Walters Rowena was selected for a really wonderful SUNY Hispanic Leadership Program that she has been participating in since I think the late fall. So I wanted to acknowledge that. We have several students in business programs who've been recently selected for IBM internships, which is fantastic because those typically do transition into very well-paid first positions following graduation. So we're always proud of the number of students who get selected for those internships. Also like to point out that we have a professor in the School of Business, Wanda Habe, who was honored by SUNY for her online teaching. And that's something to celebrate as well, because that ability to shift from face-to-face teaching to online teaching has been a challenge, and she distinguished herself in the SUNY system. And lastly, I wanted to celebrate that Dr. Ortiz Walters reports that they have just hired a new female faculty member in our accounting program, and that's unusual. So it's really quite a coup for us that we recruited this faculty member, and it will increase, I think, the sense for young women in that program that they have a new faculty member that they can see as a role model for them. I'm not sure that President Inyeti mentioned this, so I just want to say we're excited that we have a new computer security program that's passed through the master plan amendment stage with the SUNY Board of Trustees, and that will be at the Queensbury campus. We know that computer security, just think about all the things that have happened in recent years, that is a very appealing program for recruitment. So I know Vice President Wahab and I are really intent on hoping that we can get that up and running quickly. Also like to share with you that Associate Professor Michael Devine from our English department is a guest curator of a new art exhibit in our Burke Gallery called Pop for the People. And it's supposed to begin in mid-February. It is focused on pop culture as powerful civic art. It will bring together some of the traditional treasures from our art collection and our art museum and put them in conversation with some regional Plattsburgh artists, specifically some of the artists who created the murals in downtown Plattsburgh, and also student works, not just students from our BFA program, but also high school students and some students from the local neurodiverse community. So if you have time, college council members and colleagues, if you have time to visit for this exhibit, I think you might find it quite exciting. I'd also like to feature for a few minutes a really outstanding faculty in our criminal justice program, Dr. Bria Willingham. She has been invited to join a SUNY working group that's focusing on policing, law enforcement, and incarceration. And this is part of a larger initiative of the SUNY Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion to create concrete and implementable programs to increase DE&I at SUNY's 64 campuses. So really excited that she's been recognized at the SUNY level. She also has been implementing plans for a mentorship program made possible by a grant she received in December. Some of us were super excited to see her as a TEDx presenter at an event in late fall that was hosted by Arcadia University. And lastly, she gave a talk on campus that many of us attended called Jami Sisterhood, Building a Movement for and about Black women in higher education in prison. So Bria is doing incredible work. We're really fortunate to have her at SUNY Plattsburgh. I think it was already noted that we have a number of nursing students and faculty who have been supporting CVPH with vaccinations. And we're really excited about that as well, their work in the community. And lastly, this was a little bit earlier, but I don't think it was reported from the fall, that we received SUNY Plattsburgh LITS Computer Systems area received a team collaboration award for their extraordinary work to ensure academic instructional continuity during the COVID-19 campus crisis in spring 2020. So they ramped up very fast, providing all the support so that faculty and all kinds of individuals on campus would have access to Zoom and could continue to serve and meet with our students at a time when the physical contact became so unsafe and compromised. And that is my last point of celebration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
No questions, I guess. Thank you very much for your presentation.
You're very welcome.
All right. And for all of those who have been anxiously awaiting the next presentation, Chair's report will be very brief, okay? I do want to point out, Dr. Vignetti, that even though some may say the honeymoon is over, okay, a certain amount of time has passed, I will tell you that consistently, it seems every time you're on television or in the paper, that's followed by comments that I receive from people who are, they are consistently positive in their comments about you and what they think you are bringing to Plattsburgh. You have made a great first impression here at Plattsburgh to the community. Some of these people, I will call them hard to please, if you will, but because I get all the cat calls when anything seems to go wrong, but they have been consistent in their praise of you. Recently, I got some cat calls about the loss of sports. I was able to, I think, set them aside a little bit by commenting that I thought that by next spring, I think if things continue as they are going, if people if people will follow the guidelines and if the inoculations of the virus proceed, and certainly we've seen a substantial increase in the numbers of people being inoculated, that I think by summertime, we may see ourselves getting in a much more positive position with this. At least that's my optimistic view of what I hope will be the case. But as far as things at Plattsburgh, most of what people say, again, they're very positive about the inoculation program. They're very positive about the students themselves. That's just myself. I would encourage anybody on the College Council, if you wish to comment, whether you're finding similar views, I would encourage you to do that. Or if you're not finding similar views, I would encourage you to comment. But that's what I think is the feedback from the community.
So Marty, I know you opened the floor for comments, and I'm happy to hear from other College Council members. I wanted to just emphasize two things. I agree 100% that we have the best students in the world, and they live among us in the community. And whenever I meet our students at the grocery store or in the food service industry and any place else, I ask them for their story and want to learn more about why they love being here at SUNY Plattsburgh. But that's an important component for our community, that I think there's a slow epiphany occurring, that our students, many of them never leave. So when someone says to me, oh, you're bringing back all these students, my first response is always, no, they never left, because they love it up here. And for many of them, having a full-time job is the best way that they can to finance their education and move to that place of getting their degrees. And that's really in totality, and I'll just summarize all the reports you heard today from the VPs. Every single one of the reports you heard today has one theme, and that is student support, providing access, and ensuring that we essentially make these students' dreams come true. I want them all to become successful Cardinals. I want them to join the group that exists outside the walls of campus in terms of that Cardinal power that we have. And this is what it's all about, Laurie. And as I listened to the reports, I kind of felt like, boy, I should have gone longer on mine, because I was beaming with pride with all the information that was being provided by the VPs in the various areas. So yeah, it's a great community to be in. I continue to engage as much as I can. I know one of the people that have been complaining about sports, his name might rhyme with Mark Henry. But Mark and I had a good conversation. He's a huge hockey fan. He understands why we can't do this. But we're on speed dial or texting basis with the local politicians. The health department, John Canoza, has been a huge asset for our campus to be able to have that connection to essentially how we're keeping the community safe, how we're keeping the campus safe, and. Yeah, I'm happy to engage anybody, anytime when it comes to SUNY Plattsburgh, and it's truly a joy to have been here. And you're right, I've been here 1 year, so thanks, Martin.
Okay. Just to support your comment, I ran into a young man working at Sam's, and it was very similar. The story was very similar. He had on a Plattsburgh shirt. And so I asked him, I said, are you a student at Plattsburgh? And he said, yes, I am. I'm a senior. And I said, are you going to be graduating and leaving us? And he said, no, I'm going to graduate, but I'm staying in Plattsburgh. He said, I love it here. And he couldn't have been more positive, and he couldn't have been more helpful to me. I mean, it was he's just a very positive young man. Pleasure to have met him.
And I think what we've also heard today is the effort now to move into a strategic planning process. I see tremendous potential for SUNY Plattsburgh to truly be the flagship for the North Country. We're already the cultural and educational center of this area. We have a tremendous opportunity. Vice President Wahab indicated in terms of our market share, we only bring in approximately 25% of our student population from the local 7 counties that we serve. Tremendous opportunity to do more. The North Country Scholarship, I think, is a huge opportunity for us to be able to provide financial assistance to students who are challenged with respect to being able to afford and pay for a college education. Also discovered that our nursing program, phenomenal program, only 5% of our nurses stay in the area once they graduate. You can expect that there's probably conversations that we can have with respect to some sort of a program that would be funded up by our local healthcare, I'll say, contingent, that would be more of a North Country healthcare scholarship, because the North Country Scholarship right now does not go to nursing students. And our nursing program, and Ann Herzog and I visited with the nursing program a couple of weeks ago, they indicated that because that financial aid isn't available to North Country students, our local students are leaving the area to get their nursing education elsewhere. And I'm thinking, if we want to attract and retain and grow our own, they're here right now. We just need to find a way to encourage them to stay local and be part of our wonderful program here. So lots of opportunities. And again, it's I think you got an insight today. This is a great team that I have the pleasure of working with. And stay tuned for greater stuff.
Okay. Next up, Gary Cole.
Thank you so much, Marty. And the rest of the council, I'll be very brief. The first thing I want you to know is that we had an election at the Faculty Senate for the next chair of the Faculty Senate, and that will be Raymond Carmen, who is Associate Professor over at Political Science, and you will be, the Senate will be in much better hands, and you all will get a kick out of him. So no, I'm telling you, Ray is awesome. He is a wonderful soul so well organized. He'll put me to shame. So that's the first bit of news. Second, this semester really is a GE semester. We're ramping up for, fingers crossed, hopefully rolling out the new Cardinal Core curriculum in the fall semester. And so that's really what at least the GE committee and lots of folks in the Senate are doing right now. Also something that I'm working on right now, I'd like to get the teach-in concept kind of institutionalized at the Senate level by the end of the semester. So we'll see a resolution and some language on kind of making that a standard. We're going to do this every year. Unfortunately, this year we did want to push off having a teach-in because we just didn't want to do it during the COVID environment. But we'll definitely start planning it out for the fall. And the hope is to have this to be a collaboration between the Honors College and the Office of DEI, obviously. So that's exciting. And other than that, it's all about, we've got middle states, and many of the folks on the Senate are involved in middle states, and many of the folks in the Senate are going to be involved in this very important strategic planning process. And I've worked with Ann now for one semester, and I've already sung her praises, but I look forward to continuing to get to know her. I do want to share this with the council, though. One thing about strategic planning, I'm hoping to use a tone with the faculty and staff here that that any strategic plan that we develop will have to come from us, right? We have been running around like chickens with our heads cut off for many years now, saying, give us a plan, give us a plan. And so I kind of made fun of Alex about a year ago at our first Senate meeting. And I'm like, okay, Savior, save us, right? And I'm hoping that the faculty come to realize through this process that really that type of thinking, while it is understandable, is also a little askew, and that our future will be ours to chart on our own. And that will be, I hope, the purpose of the planning process is have these conversations in order to figure out what paths can lead us forward to fight off the competition from our competitors. So I think that's enough from me. But if you have any other comments or questions, just shoot me off an email. Thanks, Marty.
Thank you, Gary. Kim, you're up. Okay.
Yep.
Tell us
Marty.
What's up with the UUP?
Well, we're into advocacy season, and one of the things maybe not everybody realizes is that UUP is really the only organization in the state that actually lobbies on behalf of SUNY. Even SUNY itself does not lobby for itself. And so this is our legislative season going into the budget. And so we're working, we're deep into advocacy. I spent 2 days last week on advocacy calls with senators and legislators, and UUP throughout the state is involved in this. Typically, in a normal year, we would be down in Albany, but this year it's all on Zoom. So I'm just gonna share my screen let me actually first, I won't take real long doing this, but I wanted to, in the chat, there's a link, and I'll share the screen to the document. This is our legislative our legislative agenda. The legislative department UUP actually put together a very comprehensive agenda this year. It covers the HEALS acronym, covers these areas: healthcare, education, access for students, leadership. That's SUNY as a leader in the nation and in the state, and sustainability. And I won't go over all of these points point by point, but there's great need for supporting the teaching hospitals. The teaching hospitals train, I should say, 80% of the doctors who are trained at the teaching hospitals do stay in New York, and it's really the only affordable medical education for many populations. And also this teaching hospitals have been shorted by the state in a couple of ways. The hospital subsidy, which pays their fringe, has been eliminated by the state, and the DSH payments for the disproportionate share hospitals, which all three of our teaching hospitals are, the state is not matching the funds available from the federal government, so that there's money actually laying by the side because the state won't match the funds. So these are specific things. Education, these will probably be more familiar to you. The TAP gap, of course, more tenure track positions. These are things that we have been advocating for years. But the TAP gap itself, closing the TAP gap, is an important initiative. I don't believe I need to describe the TAP gap again, but if anyone wants to ask me about it, I can define it. Access. So we're encouraging more support for the EOP programs, and specifically there's a proposal for a medical EOP program $5 million is all it would cost to support 100 students in EOP eligible EOP eligible students, 100 students in medical school. Leadership. So here, where this is where we're talking to a large extent about the revenue raisers. So the UUP is advocating two significant revenue raisers. One is the ending the stock transfer tax rebate. The stock transfer tax has been levied since the early 20th century, but since the New York City bankruptcy, it's been rebated to the people who pay it. And there's estimates that it could raise as much as $13 billion if that rebate was removed completely. I think there's probably not a motivation realistically to totally eliminate the rebate, but there is a revenue stream there that's available. Also, the multi-billionaires tax or ultra millionaires tax. There's two bills, one for ultra millionaires and one for billionaires, to raise some more revenue, and that could raise somewhere between 2 to 5 billion for the state. So UUP recognizes that the state is in financial trouble and that we have to have revenue raisers to, if SUNY is going to get any portion of it. So these bills that we are supporting have set-asides for higher education and for public higher education. And there's a whole list of them, and then there's some sustainability proposals. One is to start a green initiative and green initiative programs coming out of SUNY ESF to aimed at alternative energy and sustainability programs. So that's in a nutshell is our legislative agenda that we are pushing among to our legislators during this budget season. We have some hope that we might have more success this year than we have in the past, since the Democrats have both houses, and there is some hope that there may be some additional sympathy coming from the federal government, since with the Senate and the presidency in the Democrat hands. So recognize, of course, that right now in the pandemic, where everybody is stressed. However, this is what we're working on. There's links to, if you want to be involved as a private citizen, I recognize that many of you can't be involved as SUNY employees, as SUNY administrators, but if you want to be involved as private citizens, we have links for letters and things at our UUP website, which is uupinfo.org. Do you have any questions about any of this? We have labor management next week with, actually on Wednesday, with senior administration. So that's pretty much what I have today.
Any questions for Kim? Okay, thank you very much, Kim.
Welcome.
I'm assuming Ethel Facto is not here. Is there anyone here to speak?
No, there is not, Marty.
Okay. Any old business to come before the council? Any new business to come before the council? All right. Our next meeting will be on Monday, April 12th, 2021 at 1 p.m. It will be possibly in the Maury Conference Room in Red K Hall, or via remote link. Okay. Hopefully, if everybody has 2 inoculations by that time, that may work. That remote distancing may work to make the Maori conference room a viable opportunity for us to meet. I don't know. We'll hope that maybe some of the rules will change a little bit between now and April 12th. But with that, I'll entertain a motion that
To adjourn, I so
adjourn.
move.
okay, we have a motion to have a second. Heidi?
Heidi.
Yes.
Heidi.
Okay, we have a second. Okay, all
Oh,
those.
yeah,
in
sorry, I
favor?
was muted. Yes, that was me.
Those opposed? Carried. Thank you, all of you, for being here.
Okay,
Appreciate
bye,
it.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Heidi.
Nice to see